Thank you all for joining me tonight to celebrate and award one of the most influential, brave, and inspiring people our generation has to offer. A person's ability to speak up on topics of importance is one of the most admirable traits one can withhold, especially when it comes to the right to education for all. The first person I think of that truly embodies these characteristics is Malala Yousafzai. She is a young woman of many incredible qualities, but first, let's dive into her background and upbringing that led her towards who she has become today. Malala Yousafzai was born on July 12, 1997, in a place known as Mingora, Pakistan. Having a daughter was not something to be proud of according to the belief system they had at that time. But her parents were intent on providing her with all the possibilities a boy would have growing up in Pakistan. Malala's father, Ziauddin Yousafzai, was actually the founder and educator of one of many all-girls schools in Swat Valley. In 2008, however, the Taliban, an extremist political group, took over and attacked several surrounding schools to rebel the idea that women and children could desire to have more career-driven opportunities. They imposed heavy restrictions upon anything the village people enjoy, such as television, music, celebrations, and most importantly, their education. In September of that year, 11-year-old Malala took action and gave a speech in Peshawar, Pakistan, titled, "How Dare the Taliban Take Away My Basic Right to Education?" Her speech highlighted the importance of education in a child's life and how to take away this right would be nothing but damaging to what their future potential could hold. In efforts of spreading her message to more people, in 2009 she ran a blog for the BBC, giving insights on what life was like living under the Taliban without access to any more education. Malala's multiple sources of advocacy led her to win the nomination of the National Youth Prize in 2011. Shortly after receiving this award, Malala and her family heard the news of multiple death threats coming from the Taliban. Being that her father Ziauddin was an anti-Taliban activist, he believed they wouldn't actually try to go after a child, but rather himself instead. Sadly, they were wrong. On October 9th, 2012, Malala was riding the bus with a group of her friends on her way home from school. The bus was suddenly stopped by a masked Taliban gunman who entered seeking for the girl who calls herself Malala. As her friends looked in her direction, her position was given away, and the gunman fired a bullet directly into the left side of her head and neck. The shooting left Malala in critical condition and placed her into a medically induced coma, which lasted until she was transferred to a hospital in Birmingham, England. Doctors had to remove part of her skull and perform several nerve repair surgeries to gain feeling back in the left side of her face that was expected to remain paralyzed. To the medical professionals' surprise, she thankfully suffered with no brain damage and was able to return back to everyday life in early 2013, where she would remain in the United Kingdom to continue her schooling. After receiving an immense amount of global support, Malala was invited to give a speech at the United Nations on her 16th birthday that same year, getting to now share her words of wisdom with the people in positions of power and pushing forth her wish for changes in their policies. A famous quote from her UN speech that people took to heart was when she stated that the only thing that has changed in her life is the death of her weakness, fear, and hopelessness, and the birth of her strength, power, and courage. From that day forward, every July 12th on her birthday would be recognized as Malala Day to honor her courageous acts of activism amongst making sure education was for all. She was also the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize in December of 2014, making her the youngest recipient to ever receive that award. Malala Yousafzai experienced the unimaginable and still rose above the odds that were pitted against her. Between standing up and advocating to the right to education amongst women and children in her country, to being a primary target to one of the largest terrorist groups known to humankind, Malala is a prime example of how passion and determination can prevail through any hardships we are forced to face throughout our lifetime. Congratulations, Malala.